Hey, scrappers, recyclers, and investors, welcome to Shark Scrapper Live, where almost every Sunday we talk about things that are going on in the precious metals market, industrial metals market. We talk about the scrap world. We, of course, have a safety note because that's very important. And we generally just have a good time talking scrap. It's great to be here. Had a wonderful anniversary with Mrs. Shark last week, and I'm sure that you all will understand when I say I didn't miss coming up with y'all because I was spending time with the wife. It was a blast. Now, a little bit of housekeeping here, real quick. Irish and I were trying to figure out the best way to proceed today because Ireland already did their time change, so that put an extra hour gap between us. And after a little bit of back and forth, we just decided that I'll go for 2 hours, and then we'll pick up Ireland at his normal time. So that's what the plan is, and how we came about this. So you get me for 2 hours, which is kind of cool because we're going to talk about gold and silver, which, there's some stuff going on there. We're going to talk copper and aluminum, which are two of our favorite industrial metals to talk about. And we have a really interesting safety discussion for the day. Plus, we have some other bits and bobs and pieces that are going to get thrown in there to go through as well. So we're going to dive in here. We got David Fillet. We got Roger at CU Scrapping Irish is with us. Great to have you all here. We'll see who else joins us as the session plays out. It is great to have you here. And Earl just joined us. Earl, welcome. Great to have you here, man. So let's get right into gold. And we'll put that up there, and we'll put this over here. It's been a very interesting week. And I tell you, the discussion that we have on gold, you could almost use pretty much the same words for silver. There's a little bit of nuance in there, but they both sort of tracked with each other. I don't think it's going to, surprise anybody. You all were probably paying attention. Gold climbed a little bit, but then had this very steep drop and has kind of leveled off here. This is the 1 week look on APMEX. I do need to make the statement, the disclaimer is important that I am not sponsored by APMEX. I get no compensation from APMEX. They are just one of many resources that I use when I buy and sell my physical gold and silver. And I do recommend that everybody have some physical gold and silver in their portfolio. Now, we see that gold kind of topped out here at the 43.79-ish, almost 79-ish, before we had this big drop. Let's go over, take a look at the 1 month chart. The 1 month chart shows this climb that we were all really excited about. We really enjoyed seeing this. Then there's the drop, and now the market's trying to figure out what it wants to do. And if we look at the 1 year, and we look way over here, it's really much more obvious here. We see gold steady climbing, then we start climbing a bit steeper, got a really steep climb, and then all of a sudden, boom. So let's get over to the trading economics chart and try to understand this a little bit better here. Here's the 1 year trading economics chart. And I want to bring up the candlesticks because this is kind of interesting to look at. So we see for the year, we've got relatively small candlesticks. Each one of these is a day of trading. Not a whole lot, a little bit of movement going on in here, but pretty much slowly climbing. Well, let's zoom into this later part of the chart here. So we're going to blow that up. We see we're climbing, and then we sort of stall out here. What's going on? The down days are about the same size as the up days, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's this drop. Well, if we look up here at the discussion, we see that what they're saying is that gold prices paired losses but remained below the 41.20 per ounce on Friday after weaker than expected U.S. CPI data boosted the expectations of lower interest rates. There was a delay in the report because of the U.S. government shutdown, and it showed that inflation around 3%. We also see that that bullion was set to snap its 9-week winning streak, right, because it fell over 5%. And then we have this. They're talking about what's going on, with the selling, and then the despite the pullback, gold remains up about 55% year to date, supported by lingering trade tensions, geopolitical risk, including more U.S. sanctions on Russia, uh, more U.S. sanctions on a number of folks and countries, and this meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping going on. So none of this really should have surprised us. It was only a matter of time before it happened. It's traders that are taking profit. They're taking some money off the table here. They saw the market was getting hot. They were trying to figure out how hot is the market going to get. At some point, we need to sell. You remember I was talking about my silver, and I'm going to sell my silver at 50. And sold some silver at 50 because it just seemed like the market was getting too hot. So this happens in the precious metal market. It happens in the stock market in general. A stock will get too hot, or the market will get too hot. Investors will get nervous. They'll decide to take money off of the table and take some of those gains. And so what you end up with is this big drop that we saw. And right now we see these little fluctuations going on here as investors digest the correction and decide, are we going to keep going down, or are we going to start moving back up again? So let's take this back out to the full year. We're going to go over here to the line chart again, and we're going to see what the forecast looks like. So this is a good signal. Here, I'll draw your attention to this part of the chart here, which is what we talk about when we're talking about our forecast. We can see that we've got this drop that happened, but then the forecast is, let's go ahead and get our arrow, but then we see the forecast is for a nice steady rise again. So what does that mean for us in the scrap world? Don't panic. There's no reason to panic sell your gold-bearing material. The same conditions that caused gold to make this climb are still here. We still have a lot of uncertainty in the U.S. market. We still have the tariffs in place. We still have the challenges with some of the mines around the world. We still have nervous investors. We still have wars that are going on. So all of that uncertainty is still bearing down on gold. And if U.S. interest rates do go down, that allows investors to feel safer moving into precious metals. So yeah, the conditions are still here. So this is a correction. It's investors taking some money and saying, yeah, I'm gonna get some cash back in my hands here, and we'll see what happens now. So yeah, I would say don't panic sell your gold bearing material. If you have some regular pattern that you're on for accumulating several bins or box that you're then going to sell, whether you ship it off to board sort or your local buyers, keep following your normal plan because there's just going to continue to be this steady rise for gold over the course of the year. And we're going to see some more churn. And it's, it might make some of the big company, big buyers, a little nervous because these kind of shifts, a 5% shift can mean a lot of money to a company that's dealing in you know truckloads of material. So they might get a little nervous, but when they see the long term forecast, if they adjust at all, it's only going to probably be a little bit. Probably won't make that many adjustments, going down, and we're just going to keep selling our gold bearing material. So I wouldn't say I'm just saying don't panic, right? Um, if you didn't sell at the top of the market, well, that's what happens. Most people chase the peak and miss it because they haven't set a firm sell target. I wasn't planning on selling any of my gold at this point. I did want to and did sell some of my silver. I had my target price when I said, hey, when it's over 50, I'm going to sell some silver. So we took some cash on the silver. We're going to talk about that when we get to silver. So yeah, it's just a let's keep plugging away. Let's keep our gold bearing material moving. Well, let's see who else has joined us and what you all have done. If you've done anything with your gold and silver, we'll do this and this with your gold anyway. Let's see. So, let's see. Where are we at here? Any comments on gold? Did anybody try to sell their gold into the high market here? And we don't have any comments on the gold, so we're going to press on here. But feel free to go ahead and drop your comments if as it comes up, because we're going to shift over to silver now. So we're going to bring this up, and then we're going to go do this. And this is one of the things I love about the Trading Economics site that I frequently use now. We just come over here and we click on silver, and boom, there we are. Look at this signal. Up, it crashes, and we have a little wobble. You could put gold and silver almost on top of each other. I mean, they because the same basic dynamics that were influencing gold in this market have been influencing silver. Now there's the addition that silver has in a lot more industrial use than gold, so we have to add in a bit of things going on in the industrial market for silver. But as for the primary drivers, the uncertainty that was driving investors to buy precious metals and the impacts to the market in this last week and the correction that took place, identical, just identical between gold and silver. And when we read the initial words here in the description, it's pretty much the same language that you saw from the gold discussion. So that part doesn't really change much. It's basically profit taking and market correction. Now, the other thing with silver, though, is that because silver has more industrial demand signal than gold, we also need to think about, that there's still the demand for silver for EVs and data centers and solar energy, but there's tightening inventories. And this is important. London and Shanghai vaults are down in their inventories. And so that is going to continue to put the industrial burden price on silver more so than just the fluctuating investment values that gold sees. So, yeah, there's the same kind of stuff going on here with gold and silver. And these two line charts could be almost identical. I'll bet you the candlesticks look very, very familiar. Yeah, look at that. Candlestick for silver was almost identical to the candlestick for gold. Climbed up, a little bit of fluctuation, and then crash. And now it's going to bob around here for a while as investors digest what's going on. If we take a look at the forecast for silver, Again, we're seeing a nice climb out. So silver will once again continue to climb back up. It's going to get back over 50. So if you missed that $50 target for your silver, don't panic. Don't get too worried. Um, Go ahead and if your target for silver is $50, I would say hold on to it right now. Keep an eye. Just be a little bit patient because there's every indication that silver will get back over 50. There's no reason why it won't get back over 50. And so when I sold some silver this week, I didn't sell quite as much as I wanted to, as what I was thinking of, because I was thinking to myself, well, this market is a little bit weird right now, so I'm going to hold off here. I'm going to sell some, and I'm going to see what happens. So when we get back over 50, I'll be selling some more silver again. All righty, let's see what kind of stuff has been going on now over in the comment section. I'm going to leave the chart up while we go to the comment section here. All right, and let's see here. Enchanted Forest Jim. Welcome, Enchanted Forest Jim. Great to have you. Using the high price of gold to make it profitable to sell stuff to board sort that might otherwise not be profitable to pay shipping on, gold connectors, I series, etc. Very good point, Enchanted Jim. With the value of some of that lower end material, if you want to call it that, the lower end gold bearing material, because it's got some more value to it, it brings it into that range of, hey, it's worth me shipping it off. And that's especially important for those of you that are still forced to ship 30, 40, 50 pound boxes through the US Postal Service or UPS or FedEx. And if you are still shipping that way, I really, really, really recommend that you check out pirateship.com if you haven't already. The discounts that Pirate Ship offers are fantastic. It's a free service. I'm not sponsored by Pirate Ship. I'm not at all. But when I was shipping those 30, 40, and 50 pound boxes to board sort, I always went through Pirate Ship because they always gave me the best possible prices. And then compare U.S. Postal Service and UPS shipping prices. So you can pick the lowest one or the fastest one, or whichever one you want. They don't do FedEx, so you still have to go look at FedEx separately. But I always found that Pirate Ship always gave me a much lower price. Now, what's really interesting is now that I'm shipping Gaylord quantities here from the Shark Cage, I get my quotes in for the shipping, and the FedEx ground priority has beaten everybody else consistently for the last almost 3 months that I've been shipping material out. And I mean soundly, by a couple $100 a load, which, that's pretty significant. So I think that may be a function of location. I might be at some backhaul area where they're trying to get more material from here to fill up a truck or something. So the rates are better because they're significantly lower than a lot of the other companies. So it's just an interesting way that shipping works, and you always want to keep paying attention and playing with your shipping and looking at it because things can change. So you definitely want to check into that. Enchanted Forest Jim says, Pirate Ship is great. I swear by those guys. Very cool, man. Yeah, they're just awesome. Just awesome. Yeah, it is definitely a money saver there. Roger, see you scrapping is saying that I've been holding for 10 years, a few months or a couple more years longer. So you got some material there that you're waiting on to sell, huh, Roger? yeah, it's kind of important to yeah, to have kind of a. I mean, some people get really nervous about this kind of stuff, and it's good to take a good perspective of your situation. So, welcome, kerosene cucumbers. Great to have you here again. Nice. Just the name cracks me up. I love the name. I tell you, so in with silver, it's also interesting in in selling silver because I have not established a relationship with any of the local coin dealers or pawn shops. When I was down in Florida, I had uh, some coin dealers that I would buy from. And so I was comfortable that if I went to them to sell, they'd know me and we'd be in a good position. Um, that was my relationship several years ago with another dealer when I lived on Cape Cod. I'd been buying silver from this guy from the actually it was two guys that were there. Been buying silver from him every month for quite a while. So when silver got up into the high 40s, the one guy said, "Hey, look, I need silver," so he offered me $50 an ounce, and I was able to take advantage of that high at that time. When you're selling to your local coin dealer or pawn shop, local buyer, you really need that relationship. I mean, they'll buy from you, but if they know you and there's a mutual trust that's been established, they're probably going to give you a better price. Because in some cases they're going to say to themselves, "Well, I'm buying back coins and rounds and bars that I know I sold him, so or her, so I'm comfortable with that." Um, so uh, you want to if you want to try to sell locally, you want to build up that relationship. You don't want to walk into that coin dealer when silver's at $50+ an ounce and expect to get spot. Not going to happen. So try to work on that relationship over time with these folks. Now, of course, we're in a situation where you kind of, if you haven't already built that relationship, you're going to be going in now to sell. So you just be careful as you go in and understand if they're a little bit trepidatious, buying your stuff at top dollar. Now, this is very different than a group like AppMex, JM Bullion. These folks, online buyers, despite what their marketing may say, they're dealing with a lot of people and they don't know and they don't care who you are. I hate to be blunt about it, but you are just another person that they're going to buy stuff from. They have a price range that they're going to offer depending upon how much material, what it is, if it's a recognized mint, if it's just bullion grade material, if it's 3 9s, 4 9, they have their prices that are set, and their buyers don't have a lot of wiggle room in there. But the good news about those folks is that you're going to know right up front what they're going to offer. There aren't a whole lot of games about it, and they tell you exactly what you have to do, how you have to ship it down to them, and the whole deal. I One of the reasons that I like AppMex is because I've never had any drama with them. It's always been very safe, very secure. The deal gets done, and we move along. So you've got this when you're selling. It's a little bit different. I mean, folks are happy to sell you material all the time, right? Because they're taking your money. When you're the one who's selling the material to them, that's when things can get a little bit different feeling. The other potential for selling your material is if you have any jewelers who do a lot of the work locally. So when I lived on Cape Cod, we had a jeweler there who repaired jewelry, made jewelry, and so he would buy some of my gold and silver because he needed the gold and silver. I mean, he literally needed gold and silver for the repairs he was doing, for the work he was doing. And so, uh, building a relationship with jewelers is also another interesting way to potentially sell your gold and silver. Possibly platinum. I don't know. I don't mess with platinum. I just don't get into the platinum world. So it's it's there's these relationships that you build with your local people, and then there's the online stuff, which is the numbers are what the numbers are. So it's good to have all those assets available to you. It's good to balance which way you're going to go with them, so that you're you're in a good position when it comes time to sell the material, and then once prices get low enough, then you're starting to buy again. All righty. Well, that was fun. Loving with just really enjoying what's happening with gold and silver right now, and where the what's going on there. And let's see, Richard Holbert. Richard's always picking on me to start getting to start recovering my own gold. So I assure you, once you do your first gold recovery, you'll want a second. It's not fast, but it'll help your profit margin. I don't know if it'll help the profit margin, but I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun when I get around to it, Richard. Um, I'm really enjoying doing all the research and getting ready to move in that direction. Enchanted Forest Jim is saying my silver guy is also my local e-waste buyer. Okay. So when I bring in my aluminum and power supplies, low and mid grade and stuff, I often just trade it straight into silver. That is very cool. That's a very cool way to do it. That trade for the material for and just trading it right into to get silver from them. That is a very cool thing to do. So yeah, if you can do that, that's a great idea, and it's great that you can do that because otherwise, what you have to do is sell the scrap, get the cash, and then go buy the material, right? So being able to do a direct trade is a great thing to do. Merchant Metals is in the house. Welcome, Merchant Metals. Great to have you here. Anyways, Jill has joined us. Awesome. Let's see. Richard is saying I have a contact that buys from pawn shops or people with scrap gold. They pay pretty well. I'm building a trust and hope to process stuff for them. Oh, okay, yeah, because that's really important in your game, in your world where you're doing the recovery and refining for people. It's all about the trust and the relationship there, because I mean, people are literally giving you gold, and there has to be a lot of trust in that relationship. Um, well, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna go there, man. That's between you and the IRS, or maybe not. Yeah. All right. Um, you know, it is time for us to now uh, go on over here and talk about our safety tip, which is getting ready for winter driving. Oh, I know, it's so much fun. Um, so, uh, Here in the United States, our friends over in Europe, as winter comes on, the weather starts getting sloppier, and we've got the rain and slush and snow and ice and all the fun stuff that we look forward to when it comes to the winter. Um, those of you that live in very snow prone areas, you probably have your routine, the things that you do. But it's really important that right now, while we're in the fall, that we just take a few minutes and think about the things that we can do to prepare and be ready for when the winter comes upon us. And the there, I mean, I don't know if you want to make a safety list of what you want to do here, but I would recommend that you check through the following things: your tires. Now, um, the all-weather tires have come a long way, and I'm not saying that you need to have snow tires. If you live in the far north and you get a lot of snow, you probably already have a set of snow tires. You have a schedule for when you're going to switch out your snow tires and break out the chains and have those in the vehicle ready to go. If you're in places like where I am here in mountains of western North Carolina, where we don't get a lot of snow, but we'll get some, the all-weather tires are sufficient. But you want to make sure that you still have a good tread, and you haven't worn them down. And you can do that penny test, or just you want to make sure that you've got the decent tread as you start going into the winter with your tires. You want to check your antifreeze and make sure that you have antifreeze that won't freeze. All right, so your coolant, your radiator coolant, you'll want to make sure that that's and most modern coolants are light years ahead of where they were when I first started driving, and many of you first started driving. So you're probably okay. And if you get your vehicle maintained regularly with oil changes and stuff, your shop is probably, checking that as a part of the routine when you come in. So, but if you're doing a lot of your own maintenance, or you don't do a lot of checking your stuff, make sure that you check your antifreeze, make sure your coolant levels are correct, and that it is tolerant for the temperatures that you can expect in your area during the winter. The same is true for your windshield washer fluid. Nothing is worse than spraying that windshield washer fluid and having it freeze on your windshield. Okay, so make sure that you have put wiper fluid in the reservoir that is good down to the temperatures that you would expect. Again, there's a lot of this stuff available at any of your big box stores, your auto dealerships. So this is not a big difficult thing. It's not the challenge that it used to be. I can remember having to get the hydrometer out and check the levels and stuff. So just check your wiper fluid. Make sure you have top it off with stuff that will withstand freezing. The wiper blades, you want to make sure that your blades are in good condition. And this brings about an interesting question, and I wonder what you all do. Do you lift your windshield wipers up off of the windshield if they're forecasting snow and ice, or do you leave them down? When I was living on Cape Cod, I used to, we parked in the garage. Both vehicles were in the garage, so that wasn't a problem. But when I was at work, I would lift the windshield wiper blades up. And it was just something that, the folks up there do as a matter of routine. And when I moved up there, I started doing that too. So, yeah. I'm just curious, who lifts their wiper blades up, or who just, leaves them down. If you do leave them down and you get some ice accumulation, you want to make sure you run the window defrogger and thaw things out a little bit before you start moving those wiper blades. Because if they're frozen down, into the ice, and you try to move them, you can rip up the wiper blades really fast. So yeah, you want to watch out for that. David says he always lifts his up. Cool. Enchanted Forest says I don't bother lifting them. I just bang the ice off as they sit on the windshield. Okay, cool. Yeah. Um, Speaking of ice, you'll want to make sure that you have a scraper of some sort. And as you saw in that video, a scraper with a brush is very useful. I recommend you not use your credit card because you can tear up your credit card pretty bad. So you'll want to have something in your vehicle for getting the ice off of the windshield and sweeping away the snow. Do not, do not put hot water on your windshield. It will shatter, it will crack. There are countless videos of stupid people doing that. And boy, howdy. That's just, yeah, that's just, I don't know what these people are thinking when they put hot water on their windshield. Like, what, the thermal shock isn't going to be an issue. So, um, uh, Sister G123, welcome. She's and you're saying you have a de-icer spray. Yep. I have. I would use that in Cape Cod because Cape Cod was one of those places where we'd have some winters that were pretty mild. We'd have other winters that it was one blizzard after another. The last winter that I was living on Cape Cod, we had so many snowstorms, and the snow was piled up so high that I couldn't throw the snow up over the pile of snow anymore. It was just insane. Um, so yeah, I got used to. I had some of that spray too, and there's also stuff that you can use to spray in the door lock, if you have a key lock that you're still using, so that that doesn't freeze up. So. Well, the problem with that is you're going to need to wear goggles, right? Or your eyebrows might freeze. So, yeah, be careful there. Make sure you got your eye protection on if you do that. um, I got a remote. Mrs. Shark got me a remote starter for the truck. I need to get that installed. Uh, if for no other reason than I could start the truck up a little bit before I go out there, and it'll be nice and warm by the time I get in. So a remote starter is also a really good idea if especially if you're up in the more wintry kind of climes. Some of the other things that you might want to think about is, do you, and I mean, again, this is, I don't want to sound like, that you got to be over prepared here, but think about what you would do if your vehicle got stuck in the snow out on the road, or you slid off or something like that. Do you have blankets in the vehicle? Do you have a shovel to kind of dig yourself out? Do you have snow melt or sand or something, which isn't going to be terribly helpful, let's face it. But if you're at work and you get a little bit of ice, maybe the snow melt would help you to be able to get out of the parking lot or something like that. Or at home, put that down, on your driveway before you take off, to get the ice and stuff off your driveway or to the vehicle. So you may want to have some things in the vehicle to help you if something happens while you're out on the road and you get stuck out on the road, and you need to stay warm while you're waiting to get the car towed out or whatever the case may be. So think about that one too. Also, avoid in the winter, avoid saying, "Oh, I'm just running to the shop. I'm only going to be a few minutes. I don't need to put a coat on. I don't need to have anything in the car." If you don't want to put your coat on, fine, but at least throw it in the car so that if something happens while you're out there, you can put your coat on. So just sort of think about what would happen if I got stuck out in the snow. Um, it's just sort of going through some of these things that can help you to be a little better prepared. If you're going to do any longer trips in the winter, then check your weather ahead of time. Do a little bit extra preparation for your trip, and think through, what could possibly happen, and am I ready if that should develop. Of course, if you're, I mean, if you're still hauling scrap and stuff in the winter, and you're pulling a trailer, you've got the extra considerations of your trailer and how that's going to handle in snow and ice. So think through that one as well, very carefully. And it's best to just think it through ahead of time before the weather gets bad, because that way you're prepared. And once you're prepared for these kind of things, well, it's just a bit easier to deal with it as it unfolds. And it can, and of course, the one of the best options is, if you don't have to go out in the snow, don't go out in the snow, right? I mean, that's always the safest way to avoid a vehicle accident in the bad weather, is don't go out in the bad weather. Oh man! All righty, let's see. Oh man, let's see what else we got going here. Freaking Awesome has joined the show. Welcome, Freaking Awesome. Great to have you here. Let's see. Let's see. He wished you no need to lift up. That is something Southern folks came up with. I live in Minnesota. Just leave the house earlier to clear the ice and snow off the vehicles, and a working defroster. Yeah, Joe. To be honest with you, I didn't do that until I moved to Cape Cod, and the folks that I was working with on Cape Cod, showed me that. I had never done that before, and I had lived in some places that got snow and ice. So I don't know. I don't know that it's a big deal. And I agree with you. I think as long as your defroster is working and you think it through ahead of time, and you don't start the wipers until after you've run the defroster for a while, you're probably just fine. 50 pounds of sand is good in my that's an important thing to think about. If you have rear wheel drive, which, try to say that a few times real fast, if in the wintertime, it might be worth putting a little bit of weight in the back of the vehicle to help with the traction there. My brother and I, when we were younger, and we had a Chevy Malibu with a 350, we may or may not have kept sandbags in the back in order to keep the ride more stable, when we may or may not have been pressing the limits on the speedometer. We always told Dad that it was, because it's there for the winter, but Dad probably understood. Oh man, yeah. David, thank you. Yeah, don't forget to hit that like button. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. All right, let's see. Plains scrappers join us. Welcome. Out here in the plains, we just have collections of ice scrapers, blankets, shovels, coats, jackets, and some freeze-friendly snacks. Also, make sure you check 511 and let people know when you leave. I'm not sure what 511 is. If you could explain that one to us, that would be good. But yeah, those all sound like very, very reasonable precautions, especially out in the plains, where sometimes it's a long time to get between, anywhere. So yeah, being very cautious like that is important. And yeah, reach out when you get to your destination so people know that you got there safe and sound. That's also an important thing to do. E-Way still is saying food and toilet paper. Um, Longest interstate shutdown, 14 hours, counted over 30 snowmen and very. Jill, that's something that a lot of folks don't really think about is they may not have gotten in the accident, they may not have the issue, but if they're on an interstate and there's an accident up ahead of them or the interstate gets shut down, they could be stuck out there for a long time. And yeah, you might need to use the facilities, which is going to be uncomfortable enough, but you don't want to have to wipe with snow. So yeah, being prepared with some snacks and stuff that you leave in the car and stuff. Yeah, that would be a really good thing to do. Really good thing to do. Let's see. Roger was saying here that Blizzard is 77. My dad had a tow truck, and I would go out on the snowmobile to rescue people stranded on I-57. Amazing how many people aren't prepared. I remember that blizzard, man. I remember that blizzard. Um, that was quite a snowstorm. Um, but you're right. I mean, it's a lot of people just don't think about it. They get so used to just hopping in the car and getting to work or going where they're going. And then when something like that happens, it can be life threatening when you're not prepared, and it doesn't have to be. Kevin Sturgis is in the house. Hey, Shark Scrapper, 7:40 in the morning here. The freaks gave us a public holiday today, so making the most of it. Well, welcome. Great to have you here. Andrew is joining us from New Zealand. Andrew has had some pretty rough weather, messed up his crops. Andrew, great to have you here. Uh, yeah, let's see. We've got a few folks saying I'm looking for some more weather kind of stuff going on here. Oh, okay. Plane Scrappers 511 is road weather website and phone number. Oh, okay. Very cool. I should see if we have that here. I know we have the North Carolina DOT site that you can see what's going on with all the North Carolina highways and stuff. But I have to see if 511 is something that we have here as well. And it's good to know for everybody's information. So thank you for sharing that. Um, and Homer's Reluctant Honesty is in the house. I'll be in New Zealand in 2 weeks. It's on my way to Tasmania. Very cool, man. I'd love to get out to that part of the world again. When I was in the Navy, we sailed down around Australia. We did some exercises with the Australians. It's fascinating. I really enjoyed being down there. Bye, Chevy. No more worries. Actually, I don't. I mean, I've got my Tacoma, and it does just fine. I'm not worried about that. It's and it and I know everybody loves. Not want to say everybody. I know a lot of people. They have their love affair with their particular brand of vehicle. It still doesn't matter if you're not prepared for what can go wrong. It doesn't matter what vehicle you're in. You can still have trouble. So. Um, just be ready, be prepared, and then if you have a good truck or a good vehicle, it's all the better. Ed Weber has joined us. Ed, great to have you on board. Great to see you. And let's see. And Kevin's dropping a line over here to Irish. So we will be joining Irish at his normal start time for Ireland time. So you'll be able to have some good conversations with him when we get over to Ireland. Uh, oh man, Oh, freaking awesome. You're cracking me up, man. I didn't give anybody time off. Get to work. Oh, man. Well, yeah, that is one way to not have to worry about the snow and ice is just move south. When I lived in Florida, we actually did have a day where it snowed. I remember it was like we got just a dusting of snow. It was years ago. We had a dusting of snow. It was gone, you know, 2 hours after the sun came up. But it was hilarious to see snow in Florida. But yeah, that's one thing you can do is you can move south if you can afford the insurance and the HOA fees and all the other stuff that goes along with being in Florida. Go for it. And Ed saying East Tennessee garden time is now sadly gone, too cold. Yeah, we just put down, I just planted some perennials that I'm hoping are good to go. Before it gets a little too cold, you got to time it just right, because you want to give them a little bit of time to get their root structure set up before the ground freezes. So yeah. All right, you know what? It is time for us to get over to our um, industrial metals market. So let us get back over here to the trading economics site. Let's go over to copper and what in the world is going on with copper. All right, so here we are. We are looking at the 1 year uh, track on copper, and we had some really interesting gyrations with copper over the course of the year. Dropped off, we climbed up, we had a sudden drop again. Then we start followed by a nice rise, but we generally start to climb up despite a lot of variability. Then we hit this real nice peak here before we have this crash that was a result of what's the United States going to do with copper tariffs. And then the market has been digesting and recovering what's going on with copper tariffs and is building itself back up again. Now, copper presents some really interesting challenges because there have also been a lot of issues with copper mines. And so the supply of copper ore has also been contributing to what's going on with pricing for copper. Excuse me. So we look up in the discussion here and we see that copper futures rose towards 5.1 per pound, hitting over 1 week highs in a series of supply disruptions. And they go on talking about the different mines and what's going on. So we have 80 miners were trapped in a mine in the Dominican Republic. Their traders are also continuing to assess the impact of the halted activity in Indonesia. Plus, we have the mine in Chile that had disruptions. Add to that discussions between the US and China for what's going to happen with markets and copper and such. And then China's own internal discussions about what they're going to do domestically. And, they come up with these discussions pledging to strengthen domestic consumption and manufacturing while accelerating efforts towards tech self resilience. So, does that mean that, the big global investors, when they hear Chinese talk, the Chinese politicians talk about this kind of stuff, they're trying to understand, well, what's that going to mean to exports of copper and copper ore and copper products or electronics, or how is that going to play into this market? And so the result is we see a lot of ups and downs going on here at the end of the market. Let me blow that up a little bit. Let's do this. So we can see that as the market started picking up again here, we get these gyrations going on with the copper market. Now, for us in the scrap world, it's like, do I take my copper in? Do I sell my copper? Copper was way up here. I wish I had sold it way up here. Is it going to get back up there again? Um, let's click on the forecast real quick. And yeah, it sure looks like copper is going to get back up there again. Um, Now, when we went to the forecast here, it automatically shifted to the 5-year track. So you see the 5-year flow of copper in the blue line. Here's the forecast. And what they're saying is that copper is expected to trade at 520 by the end of this quarter. And they're looking to be at 574 in the next 12 months. So a nice rise here for copper, getting back up to where we were before the tariff stuff kind of tanked the market for a while. So what do we do as recyclers, as scrappers? You all know that my standard recommendation is to keep moving your lower grade copper product, keep around 10% or so of your higher grade copper material behind in order to take advantage of market high conditions. I know that some of you sold into this peak. Here, let's do this. So I know that some of you sold into that peak, which was a good opportunity. And then the question is, do you hold your copper now in the hopes of gaining another one of these peaks? Because remember, even though the forecast shows this nice straight line, that's not what's really going to happen, right? We know that what's really going to happen is we're probably going to have, some sort of jigs and jags and a lot of variability as we climb into that value. So what do we do as scrappers in this copper world? Now, I don't get a whole lot of copper anymore. Not like I used to, because I'm not doing large HVACs and water heaters and stuff anymore. So for me, the copper that I get is insulated copper wire of various grades and degrees, and the occasional copper heatsink. A little bit of copper tubing here and there, but I'm not getting a whole lot of copper like many of you are. I still recommend that as we go into this development with copper, I recommend that you hold back a certain portion, 10%, 20%. You decide based on what you need for cash flow and space. Hold 10, 20% back of your good stuff, your number one, your Bear Bright, and then sell your lower grade material, your number two, your number three insulated copper wire, maybe your number one insulated, your number two copper for your cash flow purposes. Now, of course, if you don't have to get cash flow, if you're doing this as a hobby, you're just doing it for the fun of doing it, then you don't need to sell it all. And if you have the space, then go ahead and let it pile up. I mean, there's no reason for you to sell when there's good market indications that copper is going to keep rising. There are folks like myself, that we do this as a business or as part of our financial offset. So we need to make the money. We need to get some cash flow out of these things. So I will be selling my lower grade material, and I'm going to be hanging on to my higher grades. Now, the other thing that we can do with copper is depending upon your skill set and your mindset too, for that matter. But you can also do some melt projects, and you can try to sell your copper as rounds or bars, or mold them into various shapes and things of that nature, more like selling art, or the bars and rounds. And there are people on eBay and Marketplace that will pay more for copper bars and rounds than they would for just scrap copper. Your yard may or may not buy those rounds and bars from you. Depends upon your relationship with the scrapyard, and your scrapyard's policies. And they have very good reasons for not buying copper rounds and bars and stuff because, well, they don't really know what grade of copper, they don't know what else might be in there. When they're purchasing number two insulated copper wire, they know what number two insulated copper wire is. When they buy number one copper, number two copper, they know what they're buying and what their expected return is. So that's a very easy thing for them to understand. You bring in a bar of copper, especially if it's a large bar of copper, well, they may or may not be willing to give you a decent price. But there's people on eBay that will sometimes buy these things for, quite honestly, ridiculous money. So there's some other options for you too if you want to be a little bit more adventurous in what you do with your copper. But we do see a pretty good rise in copper going on here, so there's no reason to worry that you're going to be losing a lot of money on copper at this point. Again, if you don't have to sell it, you might as well hang on to it and let the value grow. If you do need it for cash flow, then sell your lower grades, keep some of your better grades behind in anticipation of these higher market prices here that you can take advantage of. Alrighty, I'm going to leave this forecast chart up, and then I'm going to go over here and see what kind of comments we have on copper. Let's see here. Gotta go back to where we were. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out where I was in the comment stream. So hang on here. All right, here we are. All right, so Plain Scrapper was commenting about bomb cyclones bring snow to the south sometimes. Yeah. And the plains get negative 30-degree Fahrenheit air temps. Man, I tell you what, I don't miss those. When I was in the Navy and we would go up off the Aleutians and stuff, man, I mean, it gets so cold sometimes your body you just can't understand how cold it is. I don't miss that at all. Not at all. Freaking awesome. Shark Scrapper, now that you're all settled into your new shop, are you feeling it's time to get a bigger place or just purchase the whole? Yeah, I wish I could purchase this whole building. That would be something. Maybe if I win the lottery. Yeah, freaking awesome. I have about a year left on. In fact, I have a year left on my current lease. It expires the end of October of 2026. So over the course of this next year, I've got to figure out what's going to happen. Do I try to find a bigger place? Because I am size constrained here. And this layout of this space is not ideal for the things that I would like to do, like melting and precious metal recovery and refining. So I think there may be another space, another shark cage moving forward, but we're still working on that one. Don't know what the answer is yet. Roger saying That last spike was really weird. Only Comex had that spike. Didn't happen on the London Metal Exchange. Listen to Roger, man. He's paying attention to these exchanges like crazy. I tell you what, man. It's interesting how some people track these things, and other folks is like, yeah, whatever. Whatever I get at the yard is what I get. Um, I think that's fantastic, Roger, that you're paying such close attention to the different exchanges. Little conversation going on between a few folks, which is really cool. Oh, let's see. Merchant metals. I'm really good at holding copper until it hits rock bottom. That used to be my stock investment methodology. Buy stock in a company when it's really expensive, and then wait till they go bankrupt or bust. Fortunately, when I got my MBA, I learned how to understand, the financials of a company, and I learned some really cool techniques for keeping myself out of trouble when it comes to the stock market. And I'm also a very conservative dividend investor, which has now helped a lot. But yeah, that's funny. That's buy high, wait till they go bankrupt and lose everything. That was my philosophy. Let's see. Roger says his copper's going in next week for cash flow. Very cool. And freaking awesome is saying hello, or is giving Roger some support there. Let's see. Kevin is saying they're holding back 20% of his copper would be about half a pound. Yeah, that's what, and that's the other thing. It's how much do you have? Doesn't really matter. I mean, if you're a hobby scrapper, then a lot of this doesn't matter. It's just, it's not taking up that much space, and you can stick it wherever you need to and wait until whenever. Freaking awesome is saying, remember about 8 to 10 years ago when it got down to $1.50 to $2? Hope it doesn't ever get that low again. Yeah. I tell you, there were some interesting times there, and one of the things that I found really interesting about that, there was also when shred steel was at one point. I think I was getting 2 cents a pound, and it really, it really kind of you can tell who is serious about being in this business and who's just having fun with it, and because it'll scare away a lot of people when it gets that low. Excuse me. So, yeah, we certainly hope it doesn't get that low again. Of course, now that I'm actually running a small business, if it does get that low, well, then that's a good opportunity for me to buy a lot of copper, right? Yeah. Let's see. We have someone new here. Living Off Scraps has joined us. Welcome to the show. Great to have you with us. Freaking awesome is saying, nice you're doing boards tonight. Yeah, it'll be fun to get on over there. When it's time, we still have about an hour to go here. So we need to give, we're doing a 2-hour show tonight because of the time changes. But it'll be fun to get over to Ireland and watch Irish do some stuff with the boards and see how that plays out later on tonight. Roger's saying the first copper I ever brought in, he was 14 years old, and it was $1.25 a pound, and that was good money back then. And I've been hooked ever since. Yeah, it's interesting because we always get spoiled, and I can see what's going to happen. Moving forward a few years, prices will recover, prices will go down at some point, and folks will say, hey, remember when copper was $5 a pound? Folks are showing their age here about how old they were back in 1980. And I apologize that my voice is a little bit rough. I've had a cold all week. I just can't seem to shake it. It's just one of those, kind of colds that just sits there and lingers. And every now and then my head fills up or my throat gets real itchy. And then it'll clear up again and it'll be fine. And then it's back again. It's just really one of those annoying kind of fall, winter kind of colds that we seem to get, or at least I seem to get. Freaking Awesome is saying, I found a few artists that are paying me 2 over shred copper for small strand transformer wire for the artwork. Oh, very cool. I've not done this right. I need to lean into this a bit more. Here in Western North Carolina, we have a lot of artists, a lot of arts, and they work in a lot of different materials. And I really do need to find my way into this art community because I have a lot of copper wire of various grades, various thicknesses that the artist might be interested in. I have aluminum, and as you all know, because you scrap these things too, there's the MLC or the heat sink aluminum, there's the sheet aluminum, there's aluminum wire. So I've got material that I think these artists would be interested in. I just haven't done a very good job of finding the artist. Now, part of that was when Hurricane Helene came through last year. It's like you couldn't find anybody for anything. But I really do need to get off the dime and get out there and try to find that art community and see if I can't find some more options for some of this material. So I'm glad you brought that up. Freaking awesome. That's a really good thing. That's another good place to sell some of our material. No. Kevin, I'm glad you're here too. I'm glad that you're glad you're here, and I'm glad you're here. Mike's Meltdown is in the house. Great to have you here, Mike. Patrick Williams has joined us. Patrick, welcome. Great to have you here. Okay, so that was our discussion of copper. Now, I'll tell you what, before we head over to aluminum, I was thinking it might be fun to see what Salvager 2 is up to. Now, I'm not sure if all of you remember this or not, but real quick, the way this played out was the researcher at the University of Miami, Dr. Neil Hammerslag, left the university, started his own nonprofit shark research organization, the Shark Research Foundation. It took him a little while to get everything set up, both the legal entity and just the physical, getting everything put in place. Excuse me. He is now fully operational, and we were able to adopt our first shark with his organization. We had our little naming contest. Those of you that were patrons through my old Patreon, you got to submit names and everything. I have since shut down the Patreon account and have a YouTube membership that is doing the same thing. So folks on that are YouTube members now at the Great White level, they get to submit names for consideration. At the next level, we vote on it. This last time, we had everybody voting on it, just because it had been a while and it was the fun thing to do. But we're doing the same kind of thing with the YouTube membership for the next shark that we adopt. We adopted Salvager, and the name that we picked was Salvager from the voting. The first shark that they tagged, a 14-foot great white female, we never saw the tag again. Not sure what happened. But hey, it's the ocean, it's sharks. This kind of stuff happens. Dr. Hammerschlag was very gracious, and he's so appreciative of the support that we gave him that he tagged the next female great white that he tagged, a 12-footer. He named her Salvager 2. So Salvager 2 is much better behaved, if you will. And we can see early on it was operating down here. No, she did not climb across the land. Of course, she swam around, but we got a hit here, and then on the 18th of October, we had a hit up here. Let's zoom in a little bit. Now, this is a little bit concerning because it's right up here against the shoreline. So it's like, is that because she got caught by some sort of fisherman, or is she just prowling along the coastline here looking for food? Of course, we won't know until we get the next hit and we see where she's at. She may have just come up here as part of her feeding strategy, and maybe there's good stuff to eat up here. Don't know. But we will certainly be keeping an eye out for her movements. By the way, if you don't recognize where this is Canada up here. Here's Cape Cod. Here, let me zoom in a little bit. So here's Cape Cod, USA. Here we are up in Canada, and she's operating up here. And this is one of the things that Dr. Hammerschlag is investigating, is all these great whites that they are finding up here off Canada. So it's very interesting. And I love coming in here and checking up on her. Now, remember that when we tag a shark, they are using a new technique for tagging their sharks that is less intrusive, doesn't harm the shark as much, doesn't stress the shark as much. And in order for us to see the tags, the shark has to come to the surface. The tag has to get up above the water, the air-sea interface boundary, at the same time that the appropriate satellites are passing overhead to see the tag. So it's not like we're going to get a hit every day or multiple times a day. Sometimes we will, but sometimes it can be many days in between when we actually see all of the information and get more tag hits. So Salvager 2 seems to be doing fine. She's, making her way around here. She's up here right now, and hopefully we don't eventually see that tag, on land consistently. That would be concerning. But right now, I'm not worried. I think it's just that she's come around to this side. Might be, again, part of her feeding strategy or something. We'll see how that one plays out. Kevin has made the comment that he found a tag in his fish and chips. I certainly hope not. That would be bad. That would be bad. So anyway, she's doing fine. And remember, I keep putting a portion of the proceeds from Shark Scrapper operations and from the YouTube memberships every month. A portion of that goes into the next tag. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to do a second tag before the end of the year. We're moving along pretty good. Even if I have to kick in, some extra money out of my own pocket to get the next tag, I really would like to have a second shark before the end of the year. So we'll see how that one goes. Now, I'm not sure. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry about the coughing that's going on here. I'm not sure if there's a seasonality to tagging the shark. So I really need to talk with Dr. Hammerschlag and find out if we do donate for another tag, before the end of the year, will he even be able to get out and tag more sharks, or if there's a seasonality to that? So we'll see. I'll let you all know what we learned there. All righty. Well, let's get over here now. Our next industrial metal is going to be aluminum, and I want to show you how we do this on the trading economics chart, because you're looking here and you say, I don't see aluminum on here anywhere. We click on more, and you see we're in the commodities tag, and we just sort of go down through these commodities, and we get down here to industrial commodities, and there's aluminum. And you can see down here, they've got bitumen and cobalt and lead and tin and rhodium and polyethylene. So even plastics and synthetic rubbers are being tracked. So here's aluminum. Very different signal than what we were seeing with copper. Aluminum futures in the UK rose to 2,815 per ton. And notice that's a metric ton there, TONNE. In October, the highest in 3 years, on a backdrop of increasingly tight supply. This is going to be our story for aluminum. Okay, we've got major consumers remain alert to the near-term tightness in physical markets due to China's aluminum output cap. And China can always decide to change what they're going to do here, but you've got this potential cap for Chinese aluminum. Plus, we've had some refinery problems. So you can see they go on and they talk about key refineries are also pressured with supply in Iceland's. I'm not even going to try to say the name of that smelter in Iceland because of electrical equipment. And Alcoa is announcing that it will shut the Kaiweets aluminum refinery in Australia due to deteriorating bauxite grades. Now they said ore grades. That's just a typo. They meant ORE, ore grades, not bauxite ore grades. London Metal Exchange primary aluminum stocks fell by 25%. Now, this is going to be the story that we're going to be paying attention to for a while now with aluminum. We had talked about it in previous discussions about aluminum supplies, the inventories going down. Aluminum is still an important metal in our industrial society. We use it for buildings and cars and planes and so many things. And we find it in a lot of our scrap material. Even the windings in motors, where possible, companies are going to aluminum because it's lighter weight and less expensive than copper. And it's funny how we would frequently call motors that have aluminum windings Chinesium. But if we look at what's going on here, this is the 1 year timeline. So we had copper, dropping off, climbing up again. We have this big drop here going from March, April. This again, a lot of the tariff kind of discussions there cause a lot of what's going on and things. And then we start climbing out of that drop as the markets figure out what's going on with the tariffs, how they're going to adjust for the tariffs, supply chains kind of re-wicker and those kind of things take place. And, it's not this straight line kind of climb, but you can very easily draw kind of a straight line going through there and see how the market has continued to climb back up and is way above where we were before. Let's look at a longer term look. Here's 5 years. And we're doing pretty good for aluminum. We're not as high as we had been. I mean, aluminum was screaming back here in 2022, but we're doing pretty good for aluminum here, for the period of the last 5 years. let's just out of curiosity, let's go all the way back. Pretty sure these go back to the mid 70s. No, not for this metal. For aluminum, they only go back to the early 90s. But you can see that overall, aluminum is doing really well. We had this one spike here that we talked about in March of 2022. Back here in 2008, we were a bit above, but other than that, we're at some really good numbers right now for the history that most of us have ever dealt with in the aluminum market. So it's a good time for us as scrappers as we deal with what's going on in the aluminum market right now. I'm going to go back to the 1 year, and I'm just curious here. Let's take a look at the candlesticks. And I want to zoom in on this part because we had these climb, and yeah, here we got a nice big candlestick right here on October 23rd. Big day for a climb there. So yeah, the aluminum market is going to be an interesting one for us to be selling into. So, if you are out there street scrapping, if you're scrapping the appliance kind of materials, then you're going to be seeing more aluminum than those of us that are just focused on electronics. And I would say that you probably want to keep your aluminum moving. Let's see. Let's take a look at this forecast. Yeah, that's not a killer signal. Oops, wait a minute. Got the wrong signal going, don't I? Do that, do that, do that. Got to get the right buttons. So it's an upward trending forecast for aluminum. Certainly not that nice steeper line that we saw for gold or silver, but it's a nice upward trending line. It's the kind of forecast that says to me, just keep selling your aluminum as it comes in, right? You build up your aluminum to a truckload or whatever you generally use to take a load into your scrapyard and sell it. Whether it's, your several bins or your pickup truck full or the back seat of your car or whatever, just keep selling your aluminum. You're not going to make a killing by holding on to it. The prices will rise slowly over time. So you don't have to have FOMO that you're going to lose value on your aluminum. It will keep slowly growing, and you'll be able to keep selling into that increased market. Yeah, there's going to be ups and downs as the year plays out. So you want to keep an eye on the short-term pricing at your scrapyard, but scrapyards, for the most part, don't react to a lot of that short-term policy because, as we've discussed many times, most scrapyards, especially larger, well-established scrapyards, they have contracts with mills and plants for materials like aluminum and copper and their shred steel. And so they have agreed pricing for that, and they have to bring in enough material to have the quantities that they've agreed that they're going to sell. Because if they can't sell that quantity, then they can suffer a financial hit from it. So usually the prices are relatively stable to increasing at your larger yards in this kind of situation. So keep selling your aluminum, keep pushing it in, and we should be fine. There's no reason to get concerned one way or the other with your aluminum. It's just keep on moving your aluminum. Get your cash out of it. It's a great cash flow metal. All right, let's see. What has been going on I'm going to leave the aluminum price and forecast up here, and we're going to go in and take a look at the chat and see what is going on here. Got to do the right buttons in order to get over to the chat though, don't I? Yes, I do. All right. D Scrapper has joined us. Welcome. Great to have you with us. Always good seeing you. Um, I am not going to try to read this, but I suspect you did that for our friends down under. Roger, welcome back. Great that you had a customer drop off a fridge for you. That's always cool. Um, and Daniel saying that tried to sell a few ounces of silver yesterday. My guy said that the refiners are refusing silver. Ah, same thing will happen if and when copper takes off. Just get your money while you can is my point. That's interesting, Daniel. That you're here. Wait a minute. Let me put that back up again. So I had heard that there were people that weren't buying. That the dealers had stopped buying junk silver. The old coins. I had not heard that they weren't buying um, silver. I didn't have any trouble when I went to sell some of my silver. But again, that I was selling to APMEX. So maybe the local dealers had to scale back a little bit because the price got too high. It's kind of an interesting situation. Because the last time silver went up close to 50, one of my buyers was desperate to get silver because he had so many people coming in buying silver that he ran out, and so he was happy to pay me $50 an ounce for the silver because he needed silver that bad. He didn't have it. But maybe what's going on in this newer market is that there wasn't that panic buying going on. So uh, and so there were more people selling their silver rather than buying. And so coin dealers and smaller dealers uh, had too much silver on hand and stopped buying it. It's a very, very real possibility. Very real possibility there. I wonder if anybody else had trouble with their selling their silver, um, or any of the other metals. And I wonder what threshold copper would have to get to where that same thing would take place with copper, because copper being a much heavier industrial use metal, there's still going to be so much more demand for copper than there is for silver that we may not see that same kind of thing happen with copper. I'm not saying we wouldn't. I'm just saying I wonder what that threshold price would have to be um, to cause that to happen. That's really interesting. That's a very interesting event that happened there. So I don't, if anybody else ran into any trouble there or not. Let's do this. And, so Roger was saying that he had to go because he had somebody bring in a refrigerator. I actually had a new person show up at the shark cage. Really interesting story. The guy called me a couple weeks ago, and he works at a scrapyard that's in one of our more remote counties. He said, "Look, my scrapyard doesn't do electronic scrap, so I get some material from them. I get some material from the county transfer station and that kind of stuff." So I've been watching your videos. I think I've got the stuff all separated right. I'd like to bring the load into you, but I can only do it on the weekend because I have to work Monday through Friday. So we agreed that we would meet yesterday on a Saturday, and we set a time. So guy shows up, real nice guy, just real nice guy. And boy, howdy, he had done a fantastic job of separating his material. I mean, even to the point where he had a couple of bins of he wasn't sure if it was telecom high or low. So he had a bin of telecom high. Then he wasn't sure if this other stuff was telecom high or low. So he's pulling out of the car. He's saying, "Yeah, I'm not sure if this is high or low." But everything else, he had done a fantastic job separating. He set, his motherboards were separated properly, RAM, CPUs, peripheral boards, low grade. I mean, you could tell that he had been watching the videos. He had been doing some research on boardsort.com's YouTube channel because everything was just really well separated. And so he and I went through the box of the telecom stuff, and it was understandable why he wasn't sure because it was very marginal. Sometimes the telecom material is pretty obvious, right? Still got all the heat sinks and the brackets and stuff, so it's a low. But some of this stuff was kind of yeah. Um, so it was really fun to meet someone new that was diving into this e-scrap market, that was trying to learn it and came in and was asking questions about the grading and, was doing a real good job with that. And we're going to be doing business for quite a while now. It might be only once every couple months or so that he has enough to make the drive to come in and sell the material to me. He works at a scrapyard and he's a heavy machine operator there. So, I can imagine what his days are like, doing the big front end loaders or the cranes and the Sheboygan grabber things. So that's got to be a pretty fascinating job to have. And just a really nice guy. So it was fun to meet a new client and talk scrap and go through material. I ended up writing the guy a check. Well, so it ended up being like $360 worth of material. I didn't have enough cash, so the guy, so we agreed. I gave him $100 in cash, wrote him a check for the rest of it. And it's like I was so I was actually having fun writing the guy the check for the material because it just felt so cool to meet this guy that's getting into scrapping and just feeling his energy and seeing his excitement about getting into this new world of electronic scrap. So it was just a fun experience, a really fun experience. And so I'm sure with Roger, yeah, it was a refrigerator. I don't know if you knew the person or if it was a new client, but it's kind of fun because I don't really get a lot of people that show up at the cage because I'm not doing business to consumer kind of advertising and buying. I mean, if you went to Google Shark Scrapper, I guess you would see the address of where my shop is located. But it's not like I'm out there trying to do a lot of business to consumer work. I'm mostly business to business. Um, just an all around fun experience with this person. Um, so yeah, Roger, your comment about the refrigerator, somebody dropping off the refrigerator, just I wanted to talk about meeting this guy, this new scrapper, and the boards and stuff that he had. Um, Fun experience. All right, let's see here. What else do we have? What other comments? Let's see. People waiting for a spike, they have a long wait to actually get paid. If the shit hits the fan, the scrapyard can and will close before they cash you out at a debilitating price. They'll pay very cheap. So yeah, I mean, it's it's interesting. I don't envision, especially with something like copper or aluminum, I don't envision, some sort of apocalyptic scenario of these huge price spikes and stuff. Uh, could a scrapyard say, yeah, we're just not buying right now? Like it could happen. I mean, it's possible. Just as happened with as with silver, where the local buyer said, no, I'm not buying any more silver right now. It's too expensive, or I don't need it right now, or something like that. That's understandable. Um, a lot of times with the yards, though, they still have obligations to their buyers, to the mills and things that they're selling material to. They still have to sell a certain amount of material. And for them, they have to weigh the financial hit of not meeting a contractual obligation uh, versus paying too much for the copper. So that's the balancing act that the yards are making when prices get kind of crazy. But I think we go back to, and Daniel and I would agree that we go back to the bottom line is keep selling your material. You know, if you're hunting that top end price, you're never going to get it unless you're just happen to be lucky. Um, as long as you keep selling into that market as it's going up, you're going to do fine. Um, and you don't have to worry about getting into this situation where the yard says, yeah, I know the price for copper is way up, but we're not buying any right now. And then you're stuck with whatever you got. So, yeah, you gotta be careful with that. Roger is saying with copper, we didn't quit buying, but we doubled and tripled their spread because of the uncertainty of the market. Spread used to be 20 cents, then went to $1 at the peak. So, and those are the kind of things that the yards will do as they try to adjust for not just the pricing, but the volatility, right? So, if we get a very volatile market where the prices are changing rapidly, then you see the yards, kind of trying to decide, yeah, what are we going to do here? And the yards tend not to react as, in a very volatile way because there are a lot of risks that they're taking. And of course, you can always call your yard ahead of time and say, hey, what are you offering this week? And if it's not a price that you want, then you don't go. It's that simple, right? If you are a business and you got to make that cash flow, well, now you got a little bit different situation. So, but if you're just a hobby scrapper, then, call ahead, find out what the price is. And if you don't like it, don't go in. Richard, I say hold copper as a savings account. If you don't need the cash flow, hold it. Prices are going to be higher. Yeah, I mean, as we saw, copper prices are going to be going up. So certainly, if you don't need the cash flow from your copper, go ahead and hold on to it. Copper will not be like silver and gold, where you can almost always get your value out of it. But the circumstances would have to be really extreme where you would run into a problem with copper. So, yeah, if you can hold it, you don't need the cash flow, then go ahead and hang on to it. Now, here's the question that you got to ask yourself: what price is the price that you're going to sell at? There are a lot of people that say, well, I'm not going to sell, I'm just going to hang on to it and let the price keep going up. The only risk that you run into when you do that is that at some point, when you do decide to sell, the market has recovered or you've had a correction, like we saw with silver and gold, and now you missed that top end. So what are you going to do with it? Now, for some people, it's like, you know what, I'm never going to sell it. I'm just going to give it to my kids or my grandkids. And that's cool. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. My point is, know what your strategy is. If you want to get the value out of your gold, your copper, your silver, what's your sell price? Have it in your plan. And then when you get there, then go ahead and sell. You don't have to sell it all, right? I mean, I didn't sell all my silver. I did what a lot of investors did. I took some money off the table. I sold some of my silver. It made the rest of my silver less expensive, right? Because I had gotten some cash off of the silver that, that had essentially doubled in price Um, and so I took some of that money off the table. You just need to understand what your strategy is. And if you're going to hold it, understand why you're holding it. Is there a price that you will sell at? Is there some situation that you're going to sell at? Or are you just planning on handing it down to the next generation and so you don't care? Any of those strategies are fine. They're all perfectly good strategies. You just need to make sure you know what your strategy is so that you're not bouncing around from one thing to the next, because that's usually where people lose money, is when they bounce around and they let the markets drive them versus understanding what their strategy is going into it. Let's see. America's favorite hoarder, welcome. Great to have you on board. Always nice to see you around. Let's see. Solars is in the house. Welcome, Solars. Great to have you here. Yeah, Roger's commenting on the new customers. Always great to meet the new folks and talk to them. Man in the shed is here. Ian says sell, sell, sell. There's two L's. There's sell, sell, sell. Got a little carried away with the fingers there, didn't you, Ian? Great to have you here, Ian. Always great to have you on board. Let's see. Daniel is saying that the demand for copper is not as important as the value of the U.S. dollar or tariffs. I mean, all these things have such an influence, and it's the combination of these influences that we try to, and that's why we do this every Sunday. We talk about what's going in, what's causing the whatever the market happens to be doing at that particular time, because anything can change this, and it can change quickly in the space of a week. um, and for instance, when gold and silver started crashing, I put out a couple of posts just to bring their attention to the fact that it was coming down. That again, if you are playing this market, you are probably paying attention anyway. But yeah, Daniel, there's so many things that can influence what's going on, and you have the industrial demand for copper that keeps moving along at its pace, and then you have these influences, political influences, geoeconomical wars. I mean, all these other things that then layer onto what's that baseline value of copper. And those things, as we saw, can have an outsized influence. They can drive the prices up, cause them to crash real quick. So yeah, you really got to pay attention to these things. Imagine you're a scrapyard owner and you have a mountain of copper, or you have a semi truckload full of 26 pallets of number one copper, and the price crashes. Yeah, it can be kind of scary for the bigger players. I mean, if you think we small time players get nervous and concerned, just imagine for the big time players what goes on in their minds. We got some folks saying hello to each other. Going through here. Oh, Ian, man, you always crack me up, man. You're always cracking me up. uh, so Daniel, I don't really advertise. The way that I find buyers and such here is kind of old school. I get out and meet people. I look through the business listings. If I find someone that looks like they might have material that, like they might generate material like an IT shop or repair shop, I'll send them a letter, or I'll give them a call. I don't do Google advertising. I don't put any money into hardcore advertising. Now, of course, I end up in the listings a little bit because of my YouTube channel and my website, and there aren't that many of us in this neck of the woods. So if someone really wanted to find the shop, they probably could. But a lot of my advertising is just old school word of mouth through business groups. I go to the local business groups and meet business leaders, and they pass my name on to other folks. I call local businesses. I reach out to county officials, other scrap yards in the area. So I'm kind of doing old school kind of networking here. But this is a relatively kind of small area from the market perspective. Um, and because I'm still just a one person operation, I can't really grow too fast and get in a situation where I'm got so much material coming in that I, have to rush hiring people and that kind of stuff. So, I'm slowly growing at a rate that I'm comfortable with. Solars is not going to have a show tonight, spending time with the kids on the school holidays, which is very understandable. So enjoy the time with the kids, Solars. We understand. Irish will be coming up here in about 9 minutes. So uh, you gotta spend time with the family. Don't forget your family. Family is very, very important. So electronic scrapper, welcome. Great to have you here. Um, Electronic Scrapper's asking, who would be the one scrapper you've never met in person but would like to? Wow, that's a hard one because no matter what answer I give, I'm going to either make some people very happy or upset others. Now, there is one answer that I can give that I know will make this person very happy. If I never meet E-Waste Mike in person, he and I will both be light years ahead of the happiness factor. And I'm quite certain that E-Waste Mike will feel the same way. Um, who do I? So I'm looking forward to meeting Chris at boardsort.com. He and I have done so much business together. We've been on the phone together. We've gone through business ideas together. So I'd really like to meet Chris at boardsort.com. He's not technically a scrapper in the YouTube sense because his channel is just about helping people understand how to sell boards and material to board sort, and so it's a board sort channel. Um, so I would say that of the scrappers that have YouTube channels that I watch regularly, um, I'd really like to get out to Ireland one day and meet Scrapping Irish in person. That would be a hoot. It'd be a lot of fun to meet Scrapping Irish in person. Um, and so if I had to pick one, I mean, I'd love to meet all of y'all. I'd love to get out to Australia and New Zealand and over to Europe and the United Kingdom and Ireland and all across the U.S. and meet everybody. But if somebody said you only get to pick one, then yeah, I'd have to say Scrapping Irish. Not only because he's Scrapping Irish, but because he's in Ireland. Hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings there. Um, Daniel is saying that small storefront opens called Green Citizen. They take e-waste. They have all kinds of customers bringing things in, and then they just closed. I see that the e-waste drives all the time, filling up the truck boxes. Yeah. So I am going to be reaching out to the county because the county does that around here. They have the e-waste drives. So I'll probably be reaching out to them, finding out what I can do to, if there's some way that I can get involved in that, and just trying to get on that schedule. Um, it's kind of challenging for, I've heard of a couple of these small businesses that start up and then they shut down after a year or two because they didn't understand the economics properly, or a storefront area can be very expensive rent compared with other places, and sometimes the rent alone can put them out of business. So yeah, it can be a real tough market to do this as a business. So yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, Solars, I agree. It's like um, it's it's so hard to pick, right? I mean, I want to meet everybody. I really do want to get out there and meet everybody. But hey, you asked me for an answer. You asked me for one person, and one of the things that I learned when I was in the Navy was sometimes you got to make harsh decisions, right? Uh, I mean, it's what we did in the Navy. We made decisions. If you ask me to give you the name of one person above everybody else, then that's the name I'm going to give you. Doesn't mean that I don't want to meet everybody else, because I really do. Um, but hey, chance to go to Ireland, hang out with Irish, travel around Ireland, be a hard one to pass up on. Uh, Richard is saying that it's yeah, that's getting rid of his stuff will be his kid's problem. I think about that sometimes too. It's like if I die before I shut everything down and sell off everything, um, that's my poor. If my wife survives me, what she's gonna like Ian has said, she's gonna dig me up and kill me again. Otherwise, my daughter is going to be going through all this stuff, going, what in the world is this junk? What am I doing with this? So yeah, I mean, she'll know what to do with the silver and gold, that's for sure. But I don't know about all the other stuff. Oh man, we're not going into that, Irish. That's between you and Ian and the pillow. That's where that's going to stay. Right there. Right there. Yep. Yep. See. There you go. Right there. Oh man. Oh. Oh, I tell you, this community is a lot of fun. I mean, really, everybody cracks me up. Real good sense of humor. Folks here are just we enjoy scrap. We enjoy joking and cutting up with each other. It really is a lot of fun to hang out with everybody. Um, I promise I will not torture you all with the 2 hour um, live stream moving forward, because here in the U.S., our time will revert on the 2nd of November, right? So let's see, wait a minute, 2nd of November. So here we are in October with these ugly mugs. And we have this week. So yeah, next week, with which happens to be Big Stack D's month, is when we change here in the U.S. So we'll be right back on schedule next month, and you all won't have to put up with me for 2 whole hours. You'll be back to just having to put up with me for 1 hour. um, yeah, Roger does this. This is a really cool thing that Roger does. Does an e-waste pickup for folks at one of the businesses. And I got a couple of businesses here that I need to talk to that employ a lot of people, and there may be something more, even though they're not directly electronic kind of scrap possible businesses. Maybe something like this is a possibility too. That's a really good idea that Roger does there. Yeah, wouldn't it be fun, Solars, if we could all come together as just YouTube scrap friends. I mean, I go to this conference called Vid Summit. I didn't go this year, but I've gone to this conference. It's a YouTube conference. I mean, it's all about YouTube, but it's a creators conference, and so it's all people that primarily do make YouTube videos. It's so much fun because I meet so many creators from all over the world, many of whom I know. And it would be so cool to be able to do something like that with our community. I just don't know that we'd ever be able to afford to do that because we've got people from all over the world. Um, you know, it would be that would be an interesting thing. It would be fun. It would be a lot of fun to do that. It certainly would be a lot of fun to do that. Let's see, what did Earl? And then folks are giving Ian miss talking about what Ian's poor wife is going to have to deal with when he goes on. Well, I think she's made it pretty clear, if I remember correctly. Ian said that if he dies before he gets the shed cleaned out, she's going to dig him up and kill him again. So Ian's got a mission. So yeah, he's got timing. Well, listen, everybody, you all put up with me for 2 whole hours, and it is now time for us to get across the pond over to Ireland. If you have autoplay enabled, when I end this stream, you will be redirected to Ireland where you can join us. If you do not have autoplay enabled, please go into YouTube, go into that search bar, type in Scrapping Irish, and join us over in Ireland. I'm not sure. I think Irish is going to do the same thing that he did last week when he's going to spend a little bit of time up front doing some scrapping and stuff. And then he's going to bring up the panel and guests and stuff. We'll see when we get over there. I look forward to seeing you all over there. I had a lot of fun. This 2 hours went by really fast. So really had a good job. Really had a lot of fun with everybody. I look forward to seeing you over in Ireland here in just a few minutes. Take care. If I don't see you in Ireland, be safe.